I heard someone cooking in the apartment next door every night, but no one lived there. No lights, no footsteps, no trash. The door was always locked. And on the night I finally called the police, the officer told me something that still makes me sick to think about. That apartment has been empty for 3 years. I wish that was a lie. But I know what I heard, I know what I saw, and I know what stood behind that door on the last night I stayed there. I moved into the building on a Tuesday morning. It wasn't a great place, but it was cheap and close to my new job. My apartment was 3C. Next door was 3B, the unit my landlord described as permanently locked. He said it casually, like it wasn't strange. No tenant, no cleaning crew, no viewings. Just a sealed door and an empty room. I didn't think much about it that first week. Old buildings have quirks. Unused rooms, old storage spaces, things like that. But what bothered me was how quiet the whole floor was. Like, not most places have some noise. TVs, footsteps, vacuum cleaners, something. But my floor felt padded, muted, like sound died here. Even my footsteps sounded swallowed. Every night when I came home, the hallway of the 3rd floor felt colder than the others. I blamed the ventilation. I should have trusted my instincts. On the 5th night, I noticed something. When I passed 3B on my way to my apartment, I heard a faint clatter from behind the door. Not loud. Just like a saucepan touching a stove. Metal on metal. I froze. Not because the sound was scary, but because it didn't make sense. The apartment was empty. At least that's what I'd been told. I pressed my ear to the door. A soft scrape slid across the floor inside. Then silence. I stepped away, laughing nervously at myself. Probably the pipes. Buildings make noises, right? I didn't sleep well that night. 2 days later, everything escalated. I had just finished eating dinner when I heard it again. This time clearer, louder, impossible to ignore. The clank of a pot lid, the soft bubbling of boiling water, a drawer opening, like someone preparing a midnight meal. I walked quietly into the hallway. The sound was definitely coming from 3B. The door was still locked. No lights under the frame, no shadows. But there it was. The unmistakable rhythm of cooking. Stirring, boiling, cutting. My mouth went dry. I knocked once. The cooking stopped instantly, not gradually, not slowly fading, like someone froze in place. I waited. 30 seconds, a full minute. Nothing. The silence felt thick, wrong, unnatural. I backed away and returned to my room, pretending I hadn't knocked. On the 8th night, a smell spread into the hallway. Warm, savory, like stew simmering on a stove. But it wasn't a normal food smell. There was something metallic under it, a coppery sharpness that made the back of my throat sting. I stood outside 3B again. This time the smell was unmistakable. Something was cooking, something heavy. And then I heard it, a low, wet stirring, thick, slow, like something being pushed through liquid. My stomach knotted. No tenant, no utilities in that apartment, no trash ever leaving the room. So where was the food going, and what food was it? I retreated to my room and locked the door. All night the smell drifted under the crack. By the 10th night, I knew something lived in 3B. Not a person. Not something normal. Because at 3 a.m. I woke to soft movement through the wall. Not cooking, walking. Slow, dragging footsteps, like bare feet on cold tile. Moving from the kitchen area toward the wall we shared. I held my breath. The footsteps stopped directly beside my bed, on the other side of the wall, and then a slow exhale. Not mine, not human, too long, too deep, too cold. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next evening, after another round of cooking noises, I finally broke and called the police. 2 officers came up to see the issue. I felt stupid explaining it. There's someone in the empty apartment. They cook every night. The officers knocked. Announced themselves, no answer. One of them took out a master key from the landlord. The door opened with a stiff groan. They went in with flashlights. I waited in the hall, heart pounding. 30 seconds passed. Then a minute. Finally, one officer called me in. The apartment was dust. Nothing inside, no furniture, no pots, no stove, no footprints in the dust. Nothing. Just one thing. A single clean circle on the kitchen counter. Like something round had sat there recently, blocking dust from landing. The cop shrugged. Probably just the building settling. You're hearing things. I wanted to believe that. I did, but as I turned to leave the empty apartment, I noticed the officer's shoe. He was standing in a faint puddle, a small wet spot on the floor, right where I'd heard stirring the previous night. The officer hadn't noticed. I hadn't stepped in it. But something had left it there. I decided to pack my things and leave the next morning. I didn't make it that far. At 4 a.m, I woke to a sound that chills me even now. Someone was cooking inside my apartment. The clatter, the chopping, and the soft simmer coming from my own kitchen. I froze in bed. I knew I hadn't left anything out. I knew no one else had a key. And then, slow footsteps, crossing the kitchen floor, moving toward the hallway, toward my bedroom. I didn't wait. I grabbed my bag and bolted out the door barefoot, sprinting down the hallway. As I passed 3B, its door handle turned. Not fully. Just enough to let me know. Something inside heard me run. I fled the building and didn't return. I moved into a new apartment across town. Yesterday I ran into my old landlord at a grocery store. He recognized me immediately. "Oh, you lived in 3C, right? You left so suddenly." I nodded. He hesitated, then lowered his voice. "You know, the police asked me again about 3B last week. Someone reported noises, cooking, movement." My stomach dropped. He continued, "But that's impossible. We boarded that apartment up after the tenant died inside. No one's been in there since." I swallowed hard. "What happened to them?" He sighed. "They were found in the kitchen, pot still on the stove, food still cooking, but they'd been dead for 2 days." I didn't ask any more questions. I couldn't, because I knew the truth. Whatever cooked that meal never stopped. And it wasn't done with me either. Last night in my new apartment, I smelled stew.